All right, welcome. Bo Horvat extension. Let's talk about it. Bo Horvat, 6-foot player. He's a center, 215 pounds or 98 kilograms for you guys outside of the U.S. He was the number 9 pick in round number 1 in 2013, drafted by the Canucks. That's where he spent his entire career up until like a week ago when he got traded to the Islanders. His contract expires at the end of this year. The reason we're talking about this is because he just signed a contract extension. 8 years, an 8-year contract extension at an annual average value of $8.5 million. It's a lot of money. Let's talk about it. First off, he is currently 27 years old. He turns 28 in April. So by the time the contract's over, he'll be 36. He is a player who he always has good positioning. He's a good two-way player. He's not one of those players where I have like. He's not one of those players that's peaking early in his career. I think he'll sustain. He'll be pretty consistent, and he'll sustain this throughout most of this contract at the very least. At least until low to mid 30s. Who knows? Every player declines at different points in their career. He could be still going strong at 36. Could be like a Patrice Bergeron type point scorer, or he could just start falling off. But I have quite a bit of confidence that he'll sustain the point production in his game throughout the duration of this contract. He's also a durable player. He doesn't get hurt too often. He's one of those guys. He doesn't throw a whole lot of hits, and he doesn't get hit a whole lot either. So there's also that aspect to it. He's not out too often with injury. Just quick stats. I just threw them up on the board. I don't want to go through them too in depth. I don't want to read them off. But quick summary. He's played most games. He's been eligible. Well, most games that have been played with his organization. Came into the league 2014-2015. 13 goals. Had a pretty good introduction and just kept growing. 2016-2017 season, he scored at a 20-plus goal rate. Since the 2021 season, it's a shortened season, 56 games. He had 19 goals. If it was a full season, he would have hit 20 goals. That's why I say a 20-plus pace. Last season and this season, he's both hit 30 goals. Last year was 31 in 70 games. This year it's 31. He's having a career year and a contract year, as many players do. It is what it is. He wasn't in the positive category of plus minus until last year. He's been a minus player his whole career, with a minus 65 on that career total. Just notable because he is one of those two-way forwards. I think his point per production suffers just a bit because he values defense more so than other star players that tend to only live in the offensive zone. So that is a huge asset, and that is probably a reason why Lou Lamoriello had his eye on Horvat. Career stats, though, 621 games, 201 goals, 219 assists, 420 total points, minus 65 for his total career. Keep in mind, he's also playing on the Vancouver Canucks, who really haven't had a competitive team since Horvat's there. They made, one playoff run in that time? I mean, I think they've been in the playoffs twice since 2014-15, but and I think one was like his rookie year, and they got eliminated in the first round. Another was a few years ago, and they made a decent run, but not really. Anyway, 0.67 points per game. We'll get into that. Comparables. Nazem Kadri, I think, is one of the best comparables to Bo Horvat, and they're very different personalities and players. Horvat offers a lot of leadership on the ice in that locker room. It's very obvious. You can tell. Canucks fans are probably sad to see Horvat go, but at the cost, I don't know how sad you're going to be now. So, comparables, Kadri signed a $7 million annual average value contract for 7 years with the Calgary Flames to essentially be their second-line center. Kadri, career year in his contract year, scored well over a point per game, won the Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche, but, about a 60-point per season player. That's Kadri. He offers a two-way game, and for that, I feel like it's a pretty good comparable in terms of the stats to Bo Horvat. You're going to pay a little more for Horvat because of that leadership, but in that locker room, do you need the leadership? It doesn't seem like there's really it doesn't seem like there's much leadership issue in the Islanders locker room. But for the course of Horvat's career, 50 to 60 point player. He hit 60 points once in 2018, 2019. He hit 61. He'll probably hit 60 points this year, hopefully. But I figured there was no better comparison in terms of contract negotiations than Nazem Kadri. So for that reason, I was a little hesitant on predicting that he was going to make more than $8 million. I don't think he's worth $8 million plus. His contract says otherwise, and I'm not here to sass players or whatever. If a player gets paid, good for them. Bad contracts are usually on the general manager, not the player. It can put pressure on the player to perform at a level they haven't, don't have the potential for. But it's a lot. Another interesting comparable I had was Fiala. Kevin Fiala just got traded from the Wild to the LA Kings last offseason. In a similar scenario, the Wild really couldn't afford to re-sign Fiala. So he traded for a prospect and a first-round pick. Fiala signed an extension, $7.875 million for 7 years. Fiala's a younger player and produces a lot more in the offensive zone than Bo Horvat. Fiala is a very good offensive forward. But the reason I have him up here is because Fiala plays pretty good defense. He's not just a one-way forward. He's pretty solid in the defensive zone as well. I don't think he gets really much credit for that, but he's one of the better two-way wingers in the game. So just for that reason alone, Fiala's not a centerman, but he's still making less than $8 million, less term on his contract. He's a younger player, and produces a lot more in the offensive zone than Bo. So just food for thought, kind of interesting, interesting stuff to look at. I had to throw Kyle Palmieri up here. He was similar, I guess, to Bo Horvat when coming to the New York Islanders. We all know Palmieri signed that, was it 4-year, $5 million annual average value extension or something like that with the Islanders or whatever. Palmieri is one of those players who peaked a little earlier and was declining in New Jersey prior to the trade. So how indicative of Palmieri's trend lines for his stats? How much of that is indicative of his stats and performance with the New York Islanders? That's not something that we may ever know, but nonetheless, prior to Palmieri's career stats before when he was traded to the Islanders, didn't play a game in the Islanders yet. He played 595 games, 183 goals, 172 assists, 355 total points. His total points per game was 0.6 points per game. A very, very, very consistent 20-goal scorer, as is Bo Horvat, very consistent. You can expect at least 20 goals out of him per season. You can expect him to play a majority of the season. You can expect him to provide a two-way game. Palmieri can be a little more physical. He can drop the gloves if needed. Horvat, not a whole lot going on there in the physical game. Doesn't take a lot of penalties. Pretty responsible player. Again, very good positional player. Plays, but since Palmieri has landed on Long Island, he's played 111 games. He's only had 23 goals, 28 assists for a total of 51 points. It's less than a half point per game. So that's why I'm a little more hesitant with this contract extension with the New York Islanders without seeing Horvat play a single game in Long Island or for the organization. Do we see a similar trend where Horvat's numbers start to decline immediately and don't really kind of pick back up to that 50 to 60 point pace like we've seen him do for his entire career as Palmieri? Maybe there's something else going with Palmieri, but it's intriguing. We see a lot of the offensive players who are very talented. Barzal, Brock Nelson's been putting the puck in the net, which is good. Wallstrom. We've seen some of these talented offensive players not put up the stats we expected to see. And that's pretty consistent throughout the team. So do we see that from Horvat as well? The Islanders are a team where they have an excellent defensive structure. They have a great defensive core. Their forwards, most of them are two-way and very responsible forwards. They play very good team defense. They play very well in their own zone. The issue with this team is scoring and offense. We've seen a guy like David Pastrnak in Boston play on a line with two defensively responsible forwards. He doesn't have to play defense. He's in that offensive zone scoring goals. And a lot of teams are kind of following that structure to an extent. There's almost a line like that on every single team in the NHL. Not quite every team. Not even the Islanders, but they need to find a way to get more scoring into their game. My question is Horvat going to provide this? Can he at least maintain his pretty straightforward numbers? He's not going to be playing next to guys like, Elias Pettersson, and he's not going to have Quinn Hughes on the back end dishing up, the sauce, So I don't know. I'm skeptical. I think $8.5 million for 8 years. I don't have an issue with the term. I have an issue with the annual average value. I think that's a little high. I was expecting something more realistically. More realistically, I had his value around a $7.25 million. Again, usually the term bothers me. The term doesn't bother me in this. Bo Horvat is a player that can sustain his game throughout that contract. So I'm not too worried about that. The leadership is there. The defense is there. The offense is kind of there. So he's a complete player. But this team doesn't need a complete player. They have a lot of complete players. They need an offensive player. They need to score goals. So for that reason, I have a bit of a contract with overpaying for Horvat. Now, if he's on the open market in free agency, I think we see a similar contract. I think he signs $8.25 to $8.5 million on the open market anyway. Teams are willing to overpay for a first or second line center. We saw that last offseason. I'm sure we'll see that again, especially with a lot of teams losing their top line centers to retirement or whatever you have, or just declining with age. A lot of teams will be on the market for a center this offseason and this trade deadline. So overpaying for one of those players is inevitable. So we'll see what happens. That's my personal take. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Horvat is worth that $8.5 million? Are you good with the term? Are you good with Horvat being on the Islanders to, do you think he'll suffer offensively? Do you think he'll be a good fit? Do you think he's going to be a first line or second line center? I think they're paying him like a first line center, but I think he's probably more of a second line center on that team. I think that's where he's going to slot in. Then again, this day and age, it doesn't really matter. Usually you want to have at least two solid scoring lines, and you'll pay a little more for that second line to be pretty close to production with that first line. So I guess in the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, you're paying this guy a lot of money. You expect a lot from him. It's what he wanted. It's what he asked for. It's what he got in addition to the term. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like this? Do you hate it? Are you an Islanders fan? Are you excited? Let me know. All right. That's it. I'm going to do a whole preview on the Islanders cap situation for next year. I think that's very intriguing. But, for now, I just wanted to talk about the Horvat extension. I saw it last night. I was, exhausted, ready for bed. I wasn't getting this board together. I have to work today. I got up this morning and exhausted again, went to work and all that stuff. So a little late on the video. Again, this is more of a hobby at this point with my, I think I have 44 subscribers in total. So it's still, we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. So thank you guys so much for watching and your support. I'm not that kind of guy that's going to ask for likes and subscribes and all that stuff because, again, this is more of a hobby. But I appreciate you guys. This is fun. All right, that's it for now. I'll see you soon. Gonna do the Islanders shit stuff. All right, take care, guys.